last night. So a few things to talk about here. Firstly, I don't want to dampen the scale of the achievement and the performance from the Man United players. However, I would say potentially more shocking than how good Man United were was just how bad Liverpool were. I was really shocked, to be honest. Really, really shocked. Now again, that can be a few caveats here to touch on from a Liverpool perspective. They played like the maximum amount of games possible last year, didn't they? Potentially around 70. They have a deep injury crisis currently, and we're only on the third game of the season. Those two things you would have to think are not coincidental. They are deeply linked, and this is the problem with the Premier League, unfortunately, and the amount of games that we have and the amount of competitions that we have. The League Cup format, for example, all this kind of stuff. It's difficult, and I think we see in that. Secondly, I would also say, is there an element of the players that were on the pitch for Liverpool that haven't succumbed to injuries yet are absolutely knackered? Are they absolutely knackered? Maybe so. Absolutely, maybe so. And the final thing regarding Liverpool was the two things that hit them hardest were no Fabinho, and there were huge gaps therefore in regards to the defensive midfield position. They played Henderson there, but what that meant was we nicked the ball there in that space a lot. You saw that when the ball rebounded off Jordan Henderson and Tony Martial, nicked it and then got in front of Van Dijk for our second goal that Rashford scored. So that was a problem there. Secondly, by having Henderson as a DM, it meant that when Alexander-Arnold goes forwards, Henderson typically for Liverpool covers the space on the right back, because he normally plays on the right of Liverpool's midfield three, and they dovetail quite well together. Instead, they had Harvey Elliott in there, who's not defensively minded at all, and that caused massive problems in and around Trent Alexander-Arnold. And then, thirdly, although Liverpool had three of their usual back four, they had Joe Gomez in, who's not played a lot of football in quite some time now, and he had a nightmare of a game. Joe Gomez, I have to say, he was the worst player on the pitch. I'm sorry. I still remember the game that Joe Gomez had for England against Brazil in the friendly, and you thought it was the arrival of someone really special, but he looks undercooked and he looks very short on confidence, and he was really poor. The gaps between Joe Gomez and Alexander-Arnold firstly, and then Joe Gomez and Van Dijk, it was frightening. It was frightening. So it played to United's strengths because they also pushed up with a high line, and it meant that there were huge gaps across the back four that Man United could look to exploit in and behind with their pace, and they did that. But that's all I want to touch on from a kind of a negative perspective in regards to Liverpool. Now I want to touch on Man United and what they did. So Man United, first of all, I want to touch on the protest first of all. The protest was disappointing. It was solely outside the ground. If I'm the Glazers now, okay, today, I'm sat here thinking, we've just beat Liverpool 2-1. That gives us some breathing room. They did a protest outside the ground, but no one's making any issue of it. No one's talking about it. Within the ground, everything was hunky-dory. We had a full capacity crowd still. We can live with this. The Glazers probably felt in the last fortnight like they were under serious pressure to sell. that has now dissipated. I'm sorry, the fans didn't do enough, and I'm really, really disappointed. You know, we beat Liverpool 2-1 last night. I would have preferred the fans to invade the pitch and get the game called off and us give Liverpool the 3 points. Even in the knowledge that I would have done that knowing that if we would play the game we'd have beat Liverpool. I would still have had the game called off. Getting the Glazers gone is more important. And again, I'll repeat this. I think I've said this in a previous video. I mean this sincerely. I would genuinely be happy, and I mean happy, for Man United to be relegated if it meant that the Glazers had to sell. I really would. I'd be happy to get relegated. So it's disappointing, but again, you know, that's the negative side out of the way. And none of this is the players' fault and Ten Hag's fault. So I am going to give them their platform now, and let's talk about what went well for Man United last night. First of all, let's touch on Ten Hag. Ten Hag made 2 huge calls. He dropped Ronaldo and he dropped Maguire. Were they enormously effective decisions? Yes, 1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. First of all, Maguire. By not having Maguire in the team, the first thing that you saw was that as a back 4, they were all in a line consistently. Maguire likes to put out fires and step forward far too much, and he gets caught out because he tries to put out a fire. He ends up pouring petrol on the fire, and then someone can run in behind. He does that. It's his calling card at this point, really. He's also very poor positionally within his own box, and he lets his runner and his marker go. We didn't have that. Varane and Martinez were exceptional. They're, as a pairing, exceptional. The communication in the back line, which, you know, those of you that watch the game will have probably seen. Varane marshalled that back line like peak Rio did. The communication from him in terms of telling all 4 of them where to be and where to go, when to step up, when to hold the line, etc., was just absolutely superb to see. It was a real virtuoso performance from Varane, and that partnership looks like it could work. It really does. And then let's touch on Ronaldo and kind of, by not having Ronaldo in the team, what it did. You guys on this channel who watch the channel know my thoughts on Ronaldo. We are a worse team when Ronaldo is in the team. He might score. You know, if Ronaldo played every game this season, he might score more goals than if Anthony Martial played every game this season. I completely accept that. Ronaldo would probably be our top scorer. I completely accept that. That doesn't mean that we would win more football matches, though. That's not the way it works. Firstly, let's touch on what it meant for us as a team by not having Ronaldo in. The 2 things that we did most effectively as a unit to be able to win this football match was pressing high. We pressed very, very high. Now, when Ronaldo's in the team, what do you typically see from us as a pressing unit? You either see they just don't even attempt it, most of the players. They don't even really give it a go. Why is that? Is it because they're all inherently lazy? They've all got a terrible attitude? There probably is some of that. But secondly, I believe a big factor within this is that they're fully aware, they're professional footballers, they're fully aware that in order to press effectively, you have to press as a unit, and it means that you cannot carry a dead weight, particularly if you're pressing from the front. You hunt in packs. You have to hunt in packs, like Liverpool do. So the likes of Bruno, Sancho, Rashford know that if they initiate the pressing trigger, if Ronaldo doesn't go with them, has an easy out. They will just play it back to the central defender and then to the keeper. And the press is redundant. There's no point in even attempting it. If you're gonna do it, every player in that area has to do it. They have to hunt as a pack. When it was Sancho, Bruno, Alanga, Rashford, and then typically, usually it was more McTominay stepping up from the midfield to do it. So they pressed as a 5 in that sense, and the fullbacks pushed forward as well to help when it was in the right areas. Malacia and Dalot, all of those players were involved in the press, in a high intensity press, incredibly effective. We pressed one of the most press resistant football teams in world football, and we won the ball off them time and time and time and time again. That was the number one thing that we did effectively to win this football match. You cannot do that with Cristiano Ronaldo in your team. I said it when we got Rangnick. Rangnick's entire philosophy is pressing. How on earth do you do that with Cristiano Ronaldo? And you saw it. We couldn't. Ronaldo wasn't in the team last night. We did it, and the players were up for it, and they did it effectively. The second thing is, we knew that we were playing against a Liverpool team that would have more of the ball than us, and they would play with a high line. Therefore, we did almost the Solskjaer-esque counter-pressing and exploit the space in behind with quick players that can make continual sprints throughout the game. Sancho, Alanga, Rashford. And we did it to devastating effect. Again, you can't really do that with Ronaldo. He can probably do more of that because he's still got a decent sprint speed. I will give him that. He's not doing a 30-40 yard sprint though in behind like a Rashford was, like an Alanga was. So yeah, that's what happened, and you saw it to devastating effect. So that's that. That's why. So that's what Ten Hag did. He dropped those two, and he knew that would play to our strengths. Those are the first two things that Ten Hag did well, that really made a huge impact. The next things that I appreciated about what Ten Hag did was Ten Hag actually just tried to play, our game mostly. When we set up with the same formation that we have to in the other two games. The tweaks though, if you noticed against Brighton, we tried playing out from the back and it didn't work. We got pressed. Against Brentford, they did that again. De Gea was trying to play out from the back, and we saw that caused all kinds of problems. We conceded a number of goals because of that. Typically, the Matthias Jensen goal in particular, and I talked about that in the post-match being a problem. I don't know if many of you are aware of this, but in the interview that Ten Hag did with Gary Neville and Carragher before the match last night, it was pre-recorded, but they aired it last night. Ten Hag talked about that was never the game plan against Brentford. The game plan was for the defence to drop deep, as if Day was going to play it short still, to draw on the counter press, and then for today to play it long, to kick over the press, because it should mean that the likes of Fred, Sancho, Rashford and Bruno in particular would have space to then pick up the ball, turn, because we've just literally looped it over, just essentially played a lob, just not a long kick per se, but somewhere towards the halfway line, not deep into the opposition half, but effectively a chip, a lob over the press, and they didn't do it. Day didn't do it, so effectively they just didn't carry out Ten Hag's instructions. You saw it this game. They played long. Day played long, and it meant that we weren't playing into trouble. And do you know what? If that's the way that they've gone, and Ten Hag has been a pragmatist about this and realised I can't do this with David De Gea. It's just not possible. You have to think about the pros and cons. Whilst the con is he's not going to be able to build and play from the back, which is a negative. That is a con for sure. The pro is you won't concede as many goals because you're not, creating fires for yourself. So if that's the pragmatist within Ten Hag that he's as more of a pro to us kicking long right now with the goalkeeper that I have at my disposal. What you now have as well is Daya now becomes an elite goalkeeper again. If we're asking Daya to kick long and just save goals, shot stopping, that's what we need from you. Daya becomes elite again, and Daya can be the Daya of last season. That is a huge, huge bonus for Man United now. A really big problem has been addressed there. So that also happened in this game. That was pleasing to see. So then let's go through, individual performances. Dalot was more solid. He had more energy about him. He had more. He didn't necessarily have more quality, but he had a better energy, and he stayed in line more, and he pressed well, and he just did what he was told by Varane, and he did it to good effect. He's never going to be the best player, Dalot, but his application and work rate levels were elevated, and therefore we saw a better performance. Good. As I've just described, Dale pulled out some great saves and kicked long. Is what we want from David. So he had an elite performance. Varane I've spoken about. Martinez, let's really talk about this. I personally had Martinez as the second best player on the pitch. I wouldn't be. I think a lot of people probably had him as man of the match. I wouldn't be. I wouldn't argue against that too much. I had him just about second best player on the pitch. Probably had Varane joint second with him. In his post-match interview, in his interview with Carragher and Neville that they had last night, Ten Hag talked about how in the Brentford game, Martinez won the vast majority of his aerial duels and every single duel on the ground. So the data shows how effective Martinez was against Brentford. And, I have to be honest, I didn't see that. I ranted about Martinez after the Brentford game. He got hauled off. I think I got drawn into the punditry when they were slagging him off. And, I have to hold my hands up and say that was wrong. I think we all got that wrong. He did actually have a decent performance against Brentford, apart from the goal with Ben Mee, where they both tripped over. Last night, I turned to my friend in the pub last night, we were about 70 minutes in, and I said, I've been really watching closely. I think Martinez might have won 100% of his aerial duels tonight. I haven't seen the stats, guys, so I could be wrong on that, but I will go and have a look after recording this video. But he won everything. He won absolutely everything that I saw in the air. He won on the ground. He won. He was so aggressive, so tenacious. You kind of got like, okay, this is why we signed him then. This is why we signed him. It's kind of like, you hate to make the comparison, but he's an upgrade on Marcus Rashford, isn't he? That's kind of what he is. His distribution was also superb. The way he switched the ball to the flanks when we were in possession, to Rashford and Elanga in particular, absolutely superb. And then I want to touch on my man of the match. Welcome to Man United, Tyrell Malacia. Holy fucking shit. This guy, man. I mean, wow. He was outstanding for me, both going forwards and particularly his defensive ability. He won so many tackles. He put out so many fires. His positioning in the box was just, I mean, head and shoulders above Luke Shaw. His positioning to step in, to intercept and, stop crosses and things was just absolutely elite. I can really see why we've signed this guy. Luke Shaw's going to struggle to get back into the team, man. I was so impressed, so impressed. We played Eriksen in the Frankie role. Again, he did it to good effect, kept things ticking over. No mistakes, did really good. Scott McTominay, incredible energy levels. Really strong in the tackle. positionally was not as naive as he not ordinarily is. He didn't make loads of interceptions, but he tackled well and he pressed well. And actually, to say, I would say it's his greatest weakness, his passing. He passed quite effectively. He played the ball into Bruno that nearly resulted in the goal for Alanga, which was a really good through pass. Impressed by that, and he just kept things simple. And he was effective. He's not the answer, but I think squad player. You can see how he would be effective. Sancho obviously scored, and he was so composed for that goal. His link-up play, in particular, I was very impressed with. He would drop into pockets and try and play little 1-2s, as we know he likes to. That was very effective. That was really good. The thing I was most impressed with Sancho there was work rate and defensive tracking. You saw him right in front of Dalot quite a few times to prevent Robertson. That's what I've wanted to see, and we haven't seen enough of that from both him and Rashford on either side. They've been poor at that in the first 2 games and last season as well. Just the application, the work rate, the effort, everything that Ten Hag's talked about, he had that. Really, really impressed with how he tracked defensively. He was just effectively a great team player, and then when called upon to make an impact with his attacking duties, he did it. That's what I want to see from Sancho. Rashford playing through the middle, superb. One of the players of, if people are saying Rashford's man of the match, I can't really argue with that. He did really, really well. Pressed, tracked, took his chances, looked confident. That was the nicest thing to see. He looked confident again, and I really hope that can kick him on, bless him, because we all love Marcus Rashford. Do you know what I mean? Like, even neutral fans, we know what a great guy he is. We all love Marcus Rashford. I want him to do well, so good for him. Bruno, again, if you were to tell me that Bruno was man of the match, I wouldn't argue with you. Now, this is really interesting. They showed before the game, and I've talked about this a lot before, they showed the stats for Bruno, goal involvements without Ronaldo, goal involvements when he's playing with Ronaldo. They can't play with him. He cannot play with Ronaldo. It just doesn't suit his game on any level to be playing with Ronaldo, and we've seen it. We've got enough of a sample size now. I mean, for crying out loud, we see it for Portugal. He's largely ineffective with him at Portugal. They play together for club and country, and it doesn't work. So, you saw it last night. I think the captaincy and that responsibility, yes, it was a factor. But Bruno, actually, he does like to be intense. We saw it when Ronaldo wasn't there. When Bruno first joined our team, he led the press. He always led the press, and people followed him, and that's why we were effective for such a long period. When it was Bruno, Rashford, and Martial as a front three, you saw that again last night. Bruno often led the press. He knows there's no point with Ronaldo, so that's why he looks shit half the time, because he looks like he's not bothering and not trying either. I would love to see a good run of 5-6 games without Ronaldo in the team now, to see if these lot can sustain it, because I think it's within their locker, and you saw it from Bruno. And I think we can get Bruno back to where he was. And look, if we can get Bruno back to where he was, he's the best attacking player that we have there, probably with Sancho. I'm really impressed. And finally, from the starting 11, Alanga. I thought Alanga was unlucky to get hooked at half time. I do, but I liked it nonetheless, because for me it was a signal. Martial's not been fit. He had a great pre-season. He's showing. Ten Hag showing Martial, I believe in you. Go and get 45 minutes, make an impact, show me what you can do. Hopefully ready to start at the weekend. That's what I hope the intention with that is. And guess what? Martial was absolutely fucking superb in that 45 minutes. He's really become now almost like a deep lying forward. You saw it in the goal with Rashford. He drops really deep to pick the ball up and lay it off. And he did it to devastating effect more than once. You can tell I'm buzzing. see what we can do there. And what we need to do now is we need to be able to try and formulate a good side that can play against a low block. We've proven it for 3 years that we can do the counter-attacking, chuck it in behind, let your quick players run in behind. We did it against PSG away, we did it against Liverpool last night, we've done it plenty of times. Can Ten Hag get this team to be effective playing against a low block and quality in possession? We'll have to see, but good start. As always, guys, let me know your thoughts, please, in the comments. Speak to you soon.